The world is not fair. It never has been, and it never will be. From the moment you enter real life, you are given a promise that sounds comforting enough to feel true. You are told that honesty is always rewarded, that hard work guarantees success, that being a good person shields you from betrayal, and that if you follow the rules, the world will meet you halfway. But that is not how reality functions. Reality does not respond to intention. It does not reward effort by default. Reality responds only to understanding. You can be the most honest person in the room and still be betrayed by someone you trusted. You can be highly skilled, disciplined, and qualified, yet watch someone less capable take your position. You can follow every rule, meet every expectation, and still lose to someone who simply understood the system better than you. This is not misfortune. It is not injustice. It is how power operates. Most people spend their lives confused by this. They ask the same questions repeatedly. Why does this keep happening to me? Why do people take advantage of me? Why am I always overlooked? Why do dishonest people succeed while I struggle? Because they never understand the answer, they repeat the same behaviors until frustration replaces optimism. But a small group responds differently. They do not complain. They do not collapse. They do not ask the world to change. They adapt. They observe. They study patterns. They accept uncomfortable truths that most people avoid. This is where dangerous intelligence begins. Not in classrooms or motivational speeches, but through betrayal, embarrassment, and loss. Pain serves a purpose if you allow it to. It removes illusions. The first time you are betrayed, something shifts. You realize loyalty is not automatic. When you are replaced despite your effort, you understand that merit alone is not enough. When someone smiles while working against you, you see that people are more complex and more self-interested than you were taught. Some people break under this realization. They become resentful, hostile, or withdrawn. They shut down emotionally or react without control. Others become aware. They stop responding emotionally. They stop trusting without reason. They stop assuming good intentions are sufficient. They begin to think strategically. This is where Machiavelli becomes relevant. For centuries, his ideas were labeled immoral and ruthless. But he was not promoting cruelty. He was describing reality. He was not explaining how the world should function, but how it actually functions when power, fear, ambition, and survival are involved. That is why these lessons are unsettling. Once you see reality clearly, you cannot ignore it. You begin noticing details others overlook. You notice how people treat you when they believe you are useful. You notice how respect appears when you stop seeking approval. You notice how silence creates discomfort, and how discomfort leads people to reveal more than they intend. You notice how morality is often used to hide weakness rather than demonstrate virtue. This is not pessimism. It is clarity. The world is not divided into good people and bad people. It is divided into those who are aware and those who are not. The unaware live reactively. They trust quickly, speak excessively, share too much, and hope fairness will protect them. The aware live intentionally. They choose what to reveal. They observe before acting. They understand incentives and fear. They know that power is not based on force, but on leverage. Here is a truth many refuse to accept. Kindness without awareness does not make you good. It makes you exposed. The world does not punish people for being bad. It punishes them for being naive. That is why this message exists. Not to turn you into someone cruel, and not to strip you of ethics, but to make you prepared. There is a difference between being ruthless and being ready. Ruthlessness without values creates harm. Values without strategy create victims. And many people are victims without realizing it. They overshare plans and wonder why others interfere. They give loyalty to those who have not earned it. They argue emotionally instead of positioning carefully. They focus on being right instead of being effective. They play simple games in environments that reward complex thinking. Their actions are visible. Their intentions are clear. Their weaknesses are obvious. Then they are surprised when someone more perceptive exploits them. Those who are dangerously intelligent behave differently. They do not rush. They do not explain themselves unnecessarily. They do not react to every challenge. They do not reveal everything they know. They understand a principle most people never learn. Power does not announce itself. It positions itself. These lessons are not about harming others. They are about avoiding harm. They are not about domination. They are about self-preservation. In a world where manipulation exists, choosing not to understand it does not make you ethical. It makes you vulnerable. Consider this. The most dangerous person in a room is not the loudest, the angriest, or the one making threats. It is the quiet observer, the one watching, the one who understands motives, the one who knows when to act and when to wait. Dangerous intelligence is silent. It does not seek attention or approval. It waits. And when the moment arrives, it moves with precision. If you have ever felt used, if you have been betrayed by someone you trusted, if you have watched less capable people advance while you were ignored, if you have questioned why doing the right thing did not protect you, then this is not entertainment. It is a warning. The goal is not to become heartless. The goal is to stop being defenseless. You do not need to become immoral to survive. You need to become aware. Intelligence is not just information. It is timing, restraint, perception, and leverage. And once you understand that, you stop being predictable. You stop being easy to manipulate. You stop being easy to replace. You become someone others hesitate to challenge. Not because you threaten them, but because they sense something different. Control and clarity. That is what defines someone as dangerously intelligent. In the next sections, you will learn the exact lessons Machiavelli revealed, not to dominate others, but to master yourself in a world that rewards those who see reality as it truly is. Niccolò Machiavelli was not a monster. He was not a villain, and he was not teaching people how to become evil. He was teaching them how to see clearly. Machiavelli lived in a time when power decided everything. Governments collapsed overnight. Allies turned on each other without warning. Leaders who depended on kindness were defeated by those who relied on strategy. Survival was not secured by virtue. It was secured by awareness. Machiavelli noticed an uncomfortable pattern. Those who claimed to be moral were often the first to betray. Those who spoke most loudly about honor were frequently the most ruthless in private. Those who insisted the world was fair were often the ones benefiting from its unfairness. So he did something risky. He told the truth. Not the polite truth, not the reassuring truth, but the practical truth. Machiavelli understood that people live in two worlds. One is the world of ideals, how people say things should work. The other is the world of reality, how things actually function when power, fear, ego, and survival intersect. Most people confuse these two worlds, and that confusion weakens them. Machiavelli did not ask what was morally perfect. He asked what actually worked. That shift in thinking is what makes his philosophy both unsettling and timeless. The reality is simple. People are not rational. They are emotional, self-interested, fearful, and inconsistent. They say one thing and do another. They promise loyalty until circumstances change. They support you until doing so costs them something. If you build your life assuming people will always act honorably, you are building on unstable ground. Machiavelli did not resent people for this. He accepted it, and acceptance creates strength. He recognized that human behavior follows patterns. Once you understand those patterns, you stop being surprised and start being prepared. One of his central insights was perception. He understood that how reality is seen often matters more than reality itself. People do not respond to truth alone. They respond to appearance. They do not follow the most moral leader. They follow the one who appears strong. They do not reward honesty by itself. They respect confidence and control. This is why Machiavelli argued that it is safer to be feared than loved. Not because fear is admirable, but because fear is dependable. Love relies on emotion. Fear relies on consequences. And people abandon emotion faster than they abandon self-preservation. This does not mean Machiavelli supported cruelty. It means he understood incentives. Most people do not do what is right. They do what is rewarded or what helps them avoid punishment. Ignoring this reality makes you predictable, and predictability creates vulnerability. Another difficult truth Machiavelli revealed is that people judge results, not intentions. You can have good motives and still be seen as a failure. You can act harshly and still earn respect if you deliver outcomes. This is why naive individuals are shocked when good intentions are punished. They believe effort should be enough. But power does not measure effort. It measures results. Machiavelli saw leaders fall because they clung to moral purity while others adapted strategically. He saw capable people destroyed because they refused to adjust to reality. From this, he reached a conclusion many avoid. Anyone who refuses to understand darkness will always be controlled by those who do. This is not an invitation to embrace evil. It is an invitation to understand it. Darkness does not disappear when ignored. It simply operates quietly. Machiavelli also understood the danger of emotional decision-making. Most people react instead of calculating. They become angry and reveal too much. They feel insulted and act impulsively. They feel threatened and overcompensate. Emotion increases visibility. Visibility increases risk. Strategic individuals behave differently. They pause. They observe. They allow others to expose themselves. This is why Machiavelli emphasized patience, timing, and restraint. Power is not about acting first. It is about acting at the correct moment. Adaptability was another key element of his worldview. Machiavelli believed rigidity led to failure. Circumstances change. People change. Alliances shift. Those who cling to one identity, one method, or one moral stance eventually break. Those who adapt endure. He compared strong leaders to water, able to flow, reshape, and adjust without losing their core. Not deceptive but flexible. Not dishonest but strategic. The most misunderstood part of Machiavelli's philosophy is his view on fear and respect. He believed leaders should be feared and respected, but never hated. Fear without hatred creates order. Hatred creates rebellion. This distinction is critical. Machiavelli was not advocating oppression. He was advocating stability. He understood that power must be balanced. Push too hard and people resist. Yield too much and people take advantage. Most people fail because they swing between extremes. They are either too aggressive or too passive, too open or too guarded, too idealistic or too harsh. Machiavelli operated in the middle ground. That is where real intelligence functions. The modern world often claims this philosophy is outdated. It encourages blind trust, constant openness, and forced positivity. But the rules have not changed. Only the setting has. Offices replaced palaces. Politics replaced battlefields. Social dynamics replaced armies. Power still follows the same principles. Perception still shapes influence. Fear still outperforms hope. Strategy still surpasses sincerity. Those who understand this quietly advance while others remain confused. Machiavelli continues to unsettle people because he forces a decision. You can live in the world as you wish it were, or you can live in the world as it is. You cannot do both. And once you see the world clearly, responsibility follows. You must choose how to use that awareness. To manipulate or to protect. To dominate or to defend. To exploit or to navigate safely. This is why this worldview matters. It is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming ungovernable by illusion. The most dangerous individual in any system is the one who understands how it operates but refuses to be controlled by false beliefs. Machiavelli did not teach people to become monsters. He taught them to stop being victims. And in the next section, this worldview will be translated into something practical, a clear framework that breaks ruthless intelligence into lessons you can recognize, apply, and control without losing yourself. Before moving forward, one point must be stated clearly. Knowledge itself is not harmful, but knowledge without limits can become destructive. Machiavellian intelligence is among the most misunderstood forms of insight, not because it is incorrect, but because it is powerful. And anything powerful requires control. When people first encounter ruthless ideas, they usually react in one of two extreme ways. One group becomes fearful. They say, "This way of thinking is immoral. It's manipulation. It's dark." They reject it entirely and remain unprotected. The other group becomes intoxicated. They hear about power, control, and strategy, and they want to dominate, manipulate, and win at any cost. Both responses miss the point. Machiavelli was not creating a guide to cruelty. He was offering a survival manual for reality. And survival requires ethics as much as it requires strategy. A clear boundary must be drawn here. Understanding manipulation does not mean you must manipulate. Understanding deception does not mean you should deceive. Understanding power does not mean you should misuse it. It means you are no longer blind. And blindness is dangerous, not only to others but to yourself, because the truth is uncomfortable. If you refuse to understand ruthless behavior, you do not remove it from the world. You simply make yourself its easiest target. Ethical framing is what separates strategic intelligence from predatory behavior. Predators look for weakness to exploit. Strategists work to remove their own vulnerabilities. There is a difference. Most people grow up with a flawed moral equation. Good people are honest. Honest people are safe. It sounds reassuring, but it is not true. History does not reward innocence. It rewards awareness. Good intentions do not protect you from people who do not share them. And this is the reality many people discover too late. You can act ethically and still be destroyed. If you are naive about power, ethics without strategy becomes fragility. At the same time, strategy without ethics turns into chaos. That is why Machiavellian intelligence must be grounded in self-control. Real power is not the ability to dominate others. Real power is the ability to not need to. When someone uses these ideas to manipulate, harm, or exploit, it reveals something important. They were already unethical. They simply lacked the language before. Knowledge does not corrupt character. It exposes it. This is why ethical framing matters. You must ask yourself an uncomfortable question. Why do I want this knowledge? Is it to feel superior? Is it to control others? Is it to seek revenge? Or is it to stop being used, deceived, or caught off guard? Intent matters. Machiavelli understood that the most dangerous leaders were not openly cruel, but those who believed they were virtuous while causing harm. Self-righteousness creates more damage than open ruthlessness. That is why awareness must be paired with humility. The moment you believe you are smarter than everyone else, you become predictable, and predictability is weakness. Ethical Machiavellianism is not about becoming heartless. It is about becoming difficult to deceive. It teaches you to pause instead of react, to observe instead of assume, to calculate instead of responding emotionally. These are not immoral traits. They are stabilizing ones. One of the greatest misconceptions in modern culture is that morality requires full transparency. It does not. You are not obligated to reveal everything you think, feel, or plan. Privacy is not dishonesty. Silence is not manipulation. Sometimes withholding information is the most responsible choice, especially when disclosure would cause unnecessary harm. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are responsibility. Another important ethical distinction is this. Defense is not aggression. Learning how people manipulate does not mean you must manipulate in return. It means you recognize the tactic early and disengage. Just as learning self-defense does not make someone violent, it makes them safer. Machiavellian awareness works in the same way. It sharpens perception. You begin to notice patterns. Who uses flattery to gain control? Who makes promises to delay action? Who uses guilt to demand compliance? Who plays the victim to avoid responsibility? Once you see these patterns, emotional reactions fade. And when emotional reactions disappear, manipulation loses its leverage. That is the ethical use of ruthless knowledge. Another boundary Machiavelli emphasized was proportionality. Overreaction creates enemies. Underreaction invites exploitation. Ethical strategy is balanced. You do not crush every challenge, and you do not ignore every threat. You respond appropriately, no more and no less. Most people fail at this point. They either escalate too quickly out of ego or tolerate too much out of fear. Both extremes are unethical because both cause unnecessary damage. Self-mastery is the ethical core of Machiavellian intelligence. If you cannot control your impulses, you have no right to control outcomes. If you cannot manage your emotions, power will eventually corrupt you. That is why Machiavelli valued restraint. He understood that visible anger weakens authority and visible desperation invites attack. Calm, measured behavior creates uncertainty, and uncertainty commands respect. Ethics also requires awareness of long-term consequences. Short-term gains achieved through cruelty undermine long-term stability. Trust, once broken carelessly, is extremely difficult to restore. Machiavelli warned against becoming hated, not out of kindness, but out of wisdom. Hatred fuels resistance. Resentment grows quietly. Ethical power avoids creating unnecessary enemies. So far, we have discussed reality, power, ethics, and boundaries. Now comes the most important shift, moving from philosophy to framework. Ruthless intelligence is not about memorizing statements. It is about training how you see, interpret, and respond. This is where most people fail. They encounter harsh ideas, feel briefly enlightened, and then return to old habits, emotional reactions, blind trust, impulsive decisions, because they were never given a system. Before breaking down the 8 ruthless lessons, you must understand the mental structure behind them. Without that, the lessons may sound impressive but will not change how you move through the world. Let one thing be clear. These 8 lessons are not tricks. They are lenses. Each one trains you to notice something most people overlook. When all 8 are combined, something significant happens. You stop being predictable. Machiavelli observed a fundamental divide in human behavior, not between good and bad, not between rich and poor, but between those who understand power and those who do not. Victims believe the world should be fair. Survivors understand the world is strategic. Victims ask, "Why would someone do this to me?" Survivors ask, "What incentive made this outcome likely?" This framework exists to move you from the first mindset to the second, not to make you cold, but to make you prepared. Another divide is observers versus reactors. Most people live in reaction mode. Something happens, emotion triggers, and the response follows immediately. This is exactly how manipulators succeed. The 8 lessons train you to become an observer first. Observers do not rush. Observers do not explain themselves unnecessarily. Observers allow patterns to reveal intent. Reaction feels powerful, but it is weakness. Control begins when you delay your response. Every lesson in this framework strengthens that delay. This leads to chess versus checkers thinking. Naive thinking is linear. If I am honest, others will be honest. If I work hard, I will be rewarded. If I am loyal, I will be protected. Strategic thinking is layered. If I do this, how might it be interpreted? What does the other person gain? What changes if circumstances shift? Machiavelli did not see life as checkers with simple, obvious moves. He saw it as chess. And in chess, every move reveals intention. Every silence communicates something. Every pattern matters. The 8 lessons are chess principles applied to real life. Why 8 lessons? Not more and not fewer. Too few oversimplify reality. Too many create confusion. 8 is deliberate. Each lesson addresses a core vulnerability in human behavior. Trust, perception, timing, loyalty, power, emotion, and control. Remove even one, and the system weakens. Together, they form a closed loop, where each lesson reinforces the others. This is why partial understanding can be dangerous. Incomplete awareness creates overconfidence. A complete framework creates restraint. Every lesson follows the same internal structure. This matters because repetition builds instinct. Each lesson answers 6 core questions. What most people believe, why that belief is risky, what Machiavelli observed instead, how it appears in real life, what strategic individuals do differently, and where the ethical boundary exists. This repeated structure trains your mind to evaluate situations automatically. Over time, you stop asking what you should feel and start asking what is actually happening. That shift defines ruthless intelligence, moving from emotion to pattern recognition. Emotion narrows awareness. Patterns expand it. Most people judge events one by one. Strategic thinkers search for repetition. Who consistently avoids responsibility? Who becomes generous only when they need something? Who disappears the moment risk appears? These lessons sharpen that ability to see patterns. Once patterns become clear, outcomes stop feeling random. Randomness feels comforting because it removes responsibility. Patterns feel uncomfortable because they demand awareness. Why does this framework feel uncomfortable? Because it challenges how you see yourself. You may realize you trusted too quickly. You shared too much. You ignored warning signs. You reacted emotionally when silence would have protected you. This discomfort is not failure. It is adjustment. Machiavelli believed growth begins when illusion breaks. The ego resists this. The mind defends old stories. That is why most people reject frameworks like this, not because they are incorrect, but because they remove comforting beliefs. Power itself is neutral. Its use is not. One important reminder before moving forward: this framework does not force behavior. It expands choice. You are not required to act ruthlessly. You are required to see clearly. Clarity creates options. You can engage or disengage, confront or wait, reveal or withhold. Lack of clarity removes choice. That is why ignorance feels peaceful until it becomes costly. Most people will never use this framework, not because it is complex, but because it demands discipline. It requires emotional restraint, patience, a willingness to be misunderstood, and comfort with silence. Most people prefer expression over control. They want to be seen, heard, and validated. Strategic intelligence is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not seek approval. That is why those who practice it often appear calm while others panic. As you move through these lessons, expect 3 internal changes: reduced emotional swings, increased tolerance for uncertainty, sharper judgment of intent. You will not become paranoid. You will become precise. You will not distrust everyone. You will trust selectively. You will not become ruthless. You will become difficult to corner. This is not about winning every situation. That point matters. The goal is not constant victory. The goal is avoiding unnecessary loss. Machiavelli understood that power is preserved by knowing when not to play. Sometimes the smartest move is invisibility. Sometimes it is delay. Sometimes it is withdrawal. These lessons teach timing, not aggression. One final warning before we begin. Once you understand these lessons, you cannot unsee them. You will notice subtle manipulation, performative morality, strategic silence, and calculated kindness. This awareness can feel isolating, but it also provides something rare: stability. While others react, you assess. While others panic, you observe. While others overshare, you choose restraint. That is the mindset this framework builds. In the next section, we move from structure to substance, breaking down each of the 8 ruthless lessons one by one with clarity, realism, and control. This is where theory becomes practical. Now the theory ends. From this point forward, awareness becomes active, because you are no longer just listening. You are learning how to decode people, situations, and power dynamics in real time. These are not motivational ideas. They are operational principles. Each lesson removes one illusion that keeps people weak. And the first illusion Machiavelli dismantles is this. Lesson 1. Never confuse words with intent. Most people focus on what others say. Strategic thinkers watch what others do. Words cost nothing. Intent is revealed through behavior, especially under pressure. People promise loyalty when it requires nothing. They demonstrate loyalty when it requires sacrifice. Naive individuals mistake fluency for honesty. Machiavellian intelligence separates language from motive. When someone speaks, ask what they gain, what they risk, and what they avoid. Intent hides in incentives, not in sentences. This lesson alone could prevent most betrayals if applied consistently. Ethical boundary. Observation is not judgment. You are not labeling people as bad. You are removing blind trust. Lesson 2. Power responds to strength, not morality. This is uncomfortable but real. People respect boundaries, confidence, and consequence far more than kindness alone. Kindness without strength invites exploitation. Strength with restraint earns respect. Machiavelli never argued that morality is useless. He argued that morality without leverage is ignored in workplaces, relationships, and politics. The person who can walk away holds power, not because they are cruel, but because they are not dependent. Dependence weakens negotiation. Independence strengthens it. Ethical boundary. Strength is not intimidation. It is the quiet understanding that you do not need approval to survive. Lesson 3. Fear is more reliable than love, but it must be controlled. Love is emotional. Fear is biological. People may stop loving you when emotions change. They rarely stop avoiding consequences. This does not mean terrorizing others. It means establishing clear, predictable boundaries. Unpredictable punishment creates resentment. Consistent consequences create order. Machiavelli understood this difference clearly. Ethical boundary. Never aim to be hated. Fear should be measured, controlled, and impersonal, like a rule, not an emotional reaction. Lesson 4. Appear weak when you are strong. Visibility invites challenge. When others know your full capacity, they prepare against you. When they underestimate you, they reveal themselves. Strategic silence becomes an advantage. Oversharing may feel honest, but it removes leverage. Machiavelli believed restraint protects power. Ethical boundary. Privacy is not deception. You are not obligated to give anyone full access to your thoughts, plans, or limits. Lesson 5. Timing matters more than action. Most people move quickly to feel in control. Strategic thinkers wait to gain control. Impulse satisfies emotion. Timing shapes outcomes. Acting too early signals fear. Acting too late signals weakness. Power exists in the pause. This lesson trains patience, one of the rarest forms of strength. Ethical boundary. Delay is not avoidance. It is discipline. Lesson 6. Loyalty is tested, not assumed. People do not prove loyalty through words. They prove it when risk is present. True allies remain when there is cost. False allies disappear when convenience fades. Machiavelli trusted patterns, not promises. Ethical boundary. Testing loyalty is not manipulation. It is self-protection. Lesson 7. Control yourself before trying to control outcomes. Emotional leakage is vulnerability. Anger exposes pressure points. Desperation signals weakness. Ego invites exploitation. Self-control is the base of all power. If someone can provoke you, they can guide you. Ethical boundary. Control must be internal first. External dominance without inner discipline eventually fails. Lesson 8. Be prepared to act against your nature when required. This is the most difficult lesson. Being consistently gentle or consistently harsh makes you predictable. Adaptability is survival. Sometimes kindness works. Sometimes firmness is necessary. Machiavelli believed rigid identity was dangerous. Ethical boundary. Adaptation is not betrayal of self. It is respect for reality. Final integration. These lessons are not designed to make you cold. They are designed to make you clear. Clear thinking reduces conflict. Clear boundaries reduce betrayal. Clear perception reduces regret. The real danger is not becoming ruthless. The real danger is remaining naive in a strategic world. In the next section, we will explore how these lessons change your internal operating system, how they reshape thinking, decision-making, and emotional responses over time. That is where ruthless intelligence becomes stable intelligence.